Everything got quiet when you walked in. You got influence, everything got quiet when you walked in.
Jackie?
All right,
Hey,
let's
Jackie.
see if I can policy order.
All right, you doing all right?
Yeah, they're good.
Good.
We got, couple of minutes, including the packet. Anybody have any corrections, changes?
Make a motion, we accept the minutes as presented.
Motion, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. Open forum? We got just 2 minutes on the third, and we'll, again, as a reminder, we won't respond, but we'll listen and take notes.
Okay, so I'm Adrienne Balkum, and on the item that you have on discussion and potential action under item 4, it says acquisition of RCH by McLendon-Chisholm. I'm going to be elected on on May 6th general election, and I'll be sworn in on May 17th. And I would hope that whenever y'all are discussing this particular item, that you would be open to having meetings with me specifically. Hopefully, you can appoint 2 members from the RCH board, possibly the president and Mr. Jackie Pullen, and we can have discussions about the transition. And I would like to be able to present to you a logical timeline with visuals and how that could come about in an easy form and fashion. And I look forward to hopefully working with each of you, and we can be able to have that presented to the city council at the second city council meeting in May, and then hopefully at the next RCH board meeting in June.
Anybody else?
David, now you can do your best. I asked David if anybody crunched any numbers on dry years versus wet years, and told me he hadn't. And I took the liberty to do that so that I can contrast our usage of dry years and wet years. If I don't establish any credibility, then you don't have any idea. I do use water. This is a picture. I'll pass it around to you. I use a pretty good bit of water when it's available. I do try to follow our rules. I will point one thing out in this picture. All this outside area is volunteer Bermuda grass that's never been watered. I do suppress the weeds and the weedy grasses, but that's all volunteer. So Bermuda grass will grow without water just for the sake of the discussion. So if you take one of those and pass those around, picture, I'm going to try to stay under 30. Like I said, I think I can probably do that. I'm going to let y'all get those before
Why don't you go ahead?
Well,
it will help you if you follow them. What I did, I'll go ahead and begin. 2021 was not a very hot year, and it was not dry. We all know what 2022 was like. In the wetter, more damp year in 2021, I didn't irrigate my lawn on the 24th day of July. Last year, I began on the 10th day of June, 44 days earlier. That's the difference between a hot year and a not so hot year. In 2021, I used a period of July through September because June, we didn't have much usage. September was our highest usage month. We used 1.65 million per day on average. The number of days we exceeded 90% of our available 2.1 with 21 days. Our highest was 2.24 million. And the number of days over 2.1 million were 3. Now contrast that to 22. I used the day, first day that we went over 2.1 million, which was the 12th day of June. And I went to the 12th day of July when we were shut down. Our average daily usage was 2.45 million. There were 29 of 31 days that we went over 2.1 million. And our highest daily usage was 2.934. During the restricted period, after the 13th until the 22nd day of July when the big rain began. During that period, when we were restricted, we used 1.7 million per day, or 81% of what was available. 3 times we went over 90%. Also looked at weekends to see if weekends matter within that restricted period of 13 July till 22 August. I compared Fridays and Mondays as the weekdays, and obviously Saturday and Sunday as the weekend. As you'll see, the difference varied by 70,000 gallons on that.
You're at 3 minutes.
We give it a moment.
Just a few more seconds. All right. We got a lot of stuff in the clock.
I understand. Well, I'll tell you what, David, what I get from this is you really don't care that I spent this time working on this, and I'll just sit down.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Anybody else?
John, thank you for the report, very good report, thank you.
There's some bullet points on the back that you might look at your leisure when you're not taking up the 3 minutes.
Appreciate it.
You bet.
All right. I'll close the member comments then, and let's move into
Sure.
discussion and potential action. So, large block grants and restrictions, got two issues that we really need to address. One is the short term, and the second is how leaky walks. So the first let's focus on the short term, and we're already using more water than we should be, and so we need to go ahead and recommend move to some type of water restrictions. My recommendation is to move to stage 2 in our drought contingency plan. Nobody wants to run out of water. I think we should be proactive with that, moving that to that, with notification coming out with the next bill. So basically, starting in June, probably, I guess is when that would start. Any comments, feedback, what's your thoughts?
No, I think we need to address it before we get into a situation of a drought. We used 900, we used almost 1 million gallons yesterday.
All right.
I've got 2 wells I can pump out of, but I'm ready to use them. Even with the sprinklers, they're all piped in. But it makes me look bad because I would have to explain to everybody that their wells, they would think that I'm cheating when I'm not, because
But your sign will say well water. Don't worry.
I guess I'll have to put a sign up if I do that. I mean, I lost a lot of shrubbery because I didn't want to look bad, so I did not use my wells.
I'm in the same position you're in. We had water pumps out here 50 years before we had RCH, and I still have water pumps that we had when I was a kid. And I water out of that. You know, I don't use any RCH water on the yard.
Right.
But the same thing, you'll get a perception. Somebody comes out and says, it's great for right here, wonder what I'm doing. Well, I'm pumping down my own tank. And I'm sorry for the perception like you are.
Right.
But we were doing this 70 years ago.
Now,
That's the same model.
I personally not cut down some of my dead shrubs so that people can know I've sacrificed. They're just, all those trees, but they've been up there for 30 years.
And I know that in the past, any type of restrictions that we came up with, we always allowed people to water the foundation with handheld hose and to water the shrubs with the handheld hose.
Yeah, and I think the contingency plan contemplates that, so.
Yes, that needs to be part of it, because people have invested a whole lot of money in shrubbery, and then, of course, their home protects their foundation.
We all know the slackman soil loves the shield, so. If if everybody's okay with that, entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Alright, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Alright. Then the second part of the water supply planning is starting to look down the road to see what we have, what we need to do. And so, last month we hired Tyler Anderson with Velvin Weeks, and he has a proposal in here to where he will come in and look at our current system, update the maps, do a hydraulic model, which we can then take and start to do some actual planning to see where it makes sense to for the infrastructure to add, and certainly to contemplate future power supply. So his estimated cost on this is $50,000, and this is in the packet. I think we need to do this in order for us to not be in this position that we're in today. We can start looking down the road. So, any motion to authorize the execution of this?
I so move.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Moving down to the agenda, right-of-way acquisition for the textile relocation. So we approved the study last month to get for the textile relocation. We also need to acquire the right-of-way, and so I reached out to I talked to Tyler and also talked to Blackland, and got a couple of proposals here to do this. One is from Whitman, the other is from Texas Land. They both have worked for systems, our neighboring systems around here. Whitman is a little bit less. I don't know that there's, both of these have come recommended to me, so I don't have any concept. But there's about roughly $20,000 difference between the two. So all things being equal, I work for low cost.
Who was the low cost Texas Land?
No, Whitman is roughly 5,400 per parcel, which is roughly 32 parcels. Texas Land is about 6,000. This includes the title research, surveying, any negotiations, and then also recording these. Expectations, we should not have to pay for the easements. So if we do, that would be actually
Easement.
the expectations, we would not have to pay for the easement.
That's correct.
But if something came up and we had to, that's a cost of over and above.
Yeah, the only time we have to pay for anything through tax doc for that is if we had to get out onto the right of way, plus we have to pay for boring highways where our line goes over the highway.
If anybody, I entertain a motion, pick one of these to move forward. Like I said, Whitman seems to be the lowest one, so that's why my position.
Should be Whitman.
I'll make the motion.
Motion, you got a second? Any other discussion? Not, all in favor? Any opposed? Carries. Acquisition of RCH from McLendon-Chisholm. So I met with Conrad and including the board back is a two-page, it's back on, let's see, pages 29 and 30. There's a two-page data request that I was given. We still do not have a confidentiality agreement with you, so I just included this in the board pack for information purposes. I would like to, for my own benefit, I'd like to better understand how the board came to, what kind of due diligence have we done on this acquisition? Is McLendon-Chisholm the only ones that we've talked to, that we talked to any of the other systems? Are we actually interested in giving up our system that we want?
Well, we do believe that McLendon-Chisholm one way or one day is gonna get a water system. And just seeing how that, when they take over Sonoma Verde and what that will do to RCH's existing system now, and, you know, we don't do something to give it to McLendon-Chisholm, just seems like logical. You can do that, take it over because when they take some of the credit, they'll take a big chunk. I don't know how RCH could ever exist when they take those meters.
So we're the one with the CCM.
No, that was enough. That was a big bill back in 2021.
Yeah, but that's McLendon-Chisholm, don't they actually have
You want to,
that, don't those meters really belong to McLendon-Chisholm?
Very
It's
last.
the water system itself.
Sonoma Verde.
Sonoma Verde.
yeah,
Through the mud or the sun.
Right.
Either, whatever. Should they decide to take it, I'm sure they can take it. I think it's already there.
Yeah, that's no, it's back, the last bill
They don't have CCM, so.
was back to.
Discussions.
I was under the impression that rural water supply corporations are given an award to CCN. When any part of that CCN becomes incorporated inside of the city, then that city has the right to acquire that part of the system that's inside their city limits. And the only thing that has to be negotiated is the cost for transfer. Kind of like what happened in heat.
So you're saying they can just annex?
No, they can't eat.
Well, I mean,
They can annex your CCE.
I think in this one,
But it has to be an agreed upon price. That's my impression.
okay. So I guess I'm just trying to understand what's in it for our members.
What was that?
If I may, we were talking about trying to get our own app. And it's millions of dollars. Money is coming somewhere. So if we had, I'll just use round numbers, we had 2,500 meters and 2,000 inside the city. And the city decides to acquire a water system, generally 500 meters to pay back this $20 million, which is part of the tax. And we're thinking that that's not a good position for the members of RCH. I'm speaking just for myself, that's my conception of how we got here.
Okay. I appreciate the background, that's what I said, I'm trying to understand this. Well, I'll do some due diligence on my own, just make sure I understand.
How can I help you?
You know, I mean, I do think it's prudent for us to have these meetings with McLendon-Chisholm and others. I think water supply is an issue. McLendon-Chisholm doesn't have any water supply
972.
either, so we got to do something about that. It would seem to be that even in a disposition of the resources, there's obligations that if we were to enter into to get water supply, as part of the organization. You guys drop out the point, we don't want just half the members to be brought on the back. So, if there's a consensus with the board, then I don't know if anybody else would like to participate in any meetings that we have with either North Texas or McLendon-Chisholm, or if we have meetings with High Point and Blackman. I mean, I'm happy to do those. If anybody else would like to join me, that's
I'll work with you.
okay. All right.
What's your address?
Just one of the things I did look up, and just as an FYI, I mean, it's taking the city this, we still don't have a confidentiality agreement from the city, so it's going to take us a few months.
Okay, you set that up online, so you'll go back online.
Once we actually make a filing with the Texas Public Utility Commission for that sales transfer and merger, we're probably talking a year for that. So anything that we do, we got to. It's not going to happen tomorrow. And the other thing I did want to mention, I talked to the city of Rockwall. Some of our territory that's actually they would like to clean up our maps and transfer some of the CCN. Like I think our CCN allows us to serve the harbor. Woessner's just a real desire for us to serve them.
Are you kidding?
Yeah.
We, RCH is everything, south of Berkeley, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So Mary Smith at Rockwell she would like as part of this whole process if we can carve that part out. Just in the city limits, they like that. We don't need a motion or anything, but I assume that the board would be acceptable to that. All right. Annual audit. So, I've been trying to get my hands on the audit, the last audit that we've done.
Have you returned the engagement letter to Mr. Blake?
I have not.
You haven't?
No, I mean, that's an action item. The engagement letter is here because when I talked to Mr. Blake, he didn't even know he was working on it. So you've got to engage somebody. My question would be is, who did our last audit? And I think this Taylor, Rutherford Taylor.
Yeah, Rutherford Taylor.
I mean, they're well respected in the field, and I don't have any problem using them. But if we've got somebody that's used that we've done it before, it might be a little bit easier.
Robin, who was the company that did it before? They went out, they retired or went out of business, didn't they? Yeah.
So when was the last audit?
It was.
When was the last audit?
In 20, we contacted, Mr. Lake in 21, and he was behind due to, I hate to say it, but it seems like everything gets a COVID, brand on it.
So you said Mr. Lake did our last audit?
Do what?
You just contacted him. You just contacted Mr. Lake,
Yes.
but he hadn't done the audit before.
No, Mr. Lake has not done all for us.
You said you contacted him what year?
Huh?
All right. Did we have, so we did not have an audit in 2020. Or 2021.
Did what now?
So we did not have an audit for 2020 or 2021.
That's correct.
I'll just remind the board that y'all approved the minutes that said you reviewed an audit at the annual meeting. So, you might want to revisit that. Well, we need to get Mr. Blake engaged, so I'll entertain a motion to.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Presentation of financial statements. Didn't put it, you said it was okay. All right. Let's start with those. Next one. Meetings up. So, anyone? You go over there.
The water we pumped last month was 20,258,000. We sold 18,957,200 gallons. We had water sales for the period of March 17th through April 17th, $223,323.65. Of that, we also had $3,345 for the late charges. Total current charges $233. We have 2,654 customers on the system right now. The usage group that Mr. Branham was talking about right now, we have only 4 people over 70,000 gallons. The little spreadsheet kind of showed where people use and all. 61 to 70,000, we have 6. Kind of the median is 30 to 40,000 and 20 to 30,000.
Any questions? Maintenance report.
For the month of April of 2023, we sold 3 meters. Year to date, we sold 30. Year to date of 2022, we sold 96. Bank claim is set for May 22nd, 23rd, and 24th. Other than that, everybody else, how much?
Did you get, I guess, that's the tank and clean, or is that scheduled?
May 23rd, 22nd, 23rd, 24th. Here's you some part-time numbers for people to do stuff for you. Here's this stuff, my pager and keys to the pump station. It's been a pleasure. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, sir. Been a pleasure. Nearly 38 years of working with the water company. It's been real, it's been fun, but it's not real fun anymore. Take care, gentlemen.
Dwight, I just want to thank you for all that you've done, getting up late in the middle of the night to check our pumps, make sure there's all still running in the hot temperatures that we had, plus going up to make sure everything was warm during the cold spell. And I just appreciate all you've done.
Thanks, guys. Don't take care.
Careful, Dwight.
All right, well, we'll figure that out. Okay. So, yes. We have to I'll tell you what, let's go into exec session. And I'll take a motion to go into exec session. Second.